guess what we're working on today. We are going to be primering the Evo bean. Do you care? You don't care. Okay. So check this out. Day 27 or something. Carnivore diet, breakfast, eggs and steak. Now lunch, we're preparing some ground turkey, some sausage, and I'll probably throw some eggs in there as well. Beautiful. Why do you laugh at me so much? Huh?
Because you're an interesting man.
Interesting man? You wanna know what I forgot in my steak and egg?
What?
Any sort of seasoning whatsoever. No, it's fine.
Oh, you need your milk.
Koda, why do you gotta be so obnoxious in the morning? I'm not leaving the shop until this damn car's in primer.
Hopefully that's like early.
Well, it should be. Technically, it should go quite smooth, but you know, with car builds, you don't know. Wait! I want to trade cars. I want to see how cool my car looks.
Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous.
Okay. How's this thing not warmed up? She's been idling this car for years. Okay. Well, hopefully Bobby don't loop out the end this morning. It's a mite bit chilly out. Ah, that car's beautiful. Huh. This car has a bent wheel. Well, it had a bent wheel, and I got it fixed, and then put it back together. It still sounds like it's got a bent wheel, so I don't know if it has another. You hear that? Either that or a wheel bearing. These wheels were off of the black Type R, the all-wheel drive Type R. When that car was wrecked and totaled and whatever they hit, must have bent some good old things. But I'm sure that her winter wheels will be going on soon with the snows, and I'll take care of it then. I'll fix whatever bent wheels she's got then. Or, you know, we could just slap on some like 57 DRs or something of the sort. But this car is supposed to be stock, so she can like beat on it. Not that she really does, but rack up miles and hit curbs and all the good things that females do. Not that Bobby hits curbs, but she has. Even though I've probably hit more curbs in my life than she has, but still, you know, it's supposed to be just a beater. It's a nice beater. It's a nice car for sure. Other than the bent wheel. That's gotta be one of the most glorious looking vehicles that I own. Wonder if she's gonna get the hint that I want her to drive next to me. There we go. I'm doing 20 for a reason, homie. Oh boy. Oh boy. Look at that thing. Nuts. What a beautiful baby I have produced. So nice. Sometimes I want to change the setup a little bit, but then I see it on moments like right now and realize it truly is perfect. I'm so glad I went back to the red tails. I had the like black housing taillights on it, the aftermarket ones, and they were nice, but it's not true BMW fashion to have those on. The all reds, I think those are the 2013 tails, are definitely the move. Want a race? You want the gap? All right, let's get some primer laid down. What do you say? Before I do that, I do want to mask off some parts of the car. Of course, this thing is going to be fully sanded again anyway, so it's not a big deal. But before I do that, there's some little areas on this alumistatic front bumper that I do think need a little bit of filler before primer. Let me show you. So right down here, there's a divot there, a small low spot there's a line there, low spot, divot. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit of flat sanding to really identify where the low spots are. Now it's not a big deal, but if we want this thing perfect, those do need to be filled. As soon as you sand, you can clearly see where the low spots are. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 low spots in total. Not a big deal. Let me show you guys what we're gonna do. So this right here is USC flexible glaze. It's made for plastics and bumpers. I'm gonna go ahead and mix up a little bit of this, sand down the affected areas, probably with like 120 or 150. Got a real good scuff on there so it adheres properly. This is all mixed up nicely. Kind of weird how it comes in a bag, but let's get some mixed up and get her on the bumper. Yeah, this stuff is completely dried out. It's been sitting for a little bit too long. That ain't gonna work. I wonder if I could just use regular glaze on the bumper. It is pretty flexible. I'm gonna look it up real quick. This is going in the garbage. I don't like that. People say not to, so I might have to run to the store and pick up some actual plastic filler, plastic glaze. I just went and picked up a freshie. I'm assuming the old stuff was just sitting for a little bit too long because it sat for like 3 years. So let's get it all mixed up. It does say to apply or sand the affected area with 80 or 100 grit first. So that's what we're gonna do. Oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. Thin. Get her nice and scuffed up so this has something to adhere to. It always worries me putting filler on bumpers. I've had to do it in the past and it's held up just fine, but it's just a little worrisome. If you prep it right, you should be fine. Clean her up with wax and grease remover, and we should be good. While I'm waiting on that bumper filler to harden up, I'm gonna do a little bit of masking on this thing. My beautiful undercoating that we applied, I don't want a bunch of primer getting on. Did a quick little bit of masking. We should be good to go. The glaze or the filler should be dry. I left a bit on this thing here to see how truly flexible it is. And it appears it's actually very, very flexible. Let's peel it off and take a look. So this is what we applied to the bumper. It's pretty freaking flexible. If your bumper's flexing that much, I think you got bigger problems than a little bit of glaze or a little bit of filler. So they want us to sand it 100 to 180 followed by 220. You can see very, very clearly where the low spots were. Good to go. All right, so up here we have 3 different products. We have a self-etching primer. We had self-etching primer. All right, should be good. Come on, give me some spray. Well, kind of sprays. we have adhesion promoter, and we have wax and grease remover. So any area that is going to get primered is going to be cleaned with wax and grease remover. Now any area that is down to bare metal, for example this area right here, any spot on the car that's bare metal is going to get the self-etch primer. And then on the bumper where we are spraying primer, we're going to lay down adhesion promoter first. Improves adhesion to plastics, so it does not peel off in the future. Get her all nice and cleaned up. I'm thinking I'm gonna do 3 coats of primer today, because we have quite a bit of body work that we did that I want looking perfect. So you don't need much etch, just enough to cover the metal. So all this etch primer is going to do is provide a good corrosion resistant barrier. So underneath the paint, or underneath the primer I guess it would be, we do not start having issues. Now, let's just go ahead and slap this adhesion promoter down. We gotta wait, what does it say? Like 15 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes on this, and 15 minutes on this before we prime. We have a ton of areas that are gonna need primer. This primer here is just a high build 2K urethane primer, mixes 4:1. I'm gonna be running a fast activator and no reducer. Let's go to get her mixed up, wait a couple more minutes, and the plan is, everything's warm. The car is extremely warm right now. All the paint, of course, is warm. The air is warm. Everything is warm. The shop is warm. But I don't want I don't want to have to pull cars out of the shop and spray in here. So the goal and the plan is, yank the car outside real quick, coat a primer, pull it back inside, let it cure. About 10, 15 minutes in between each coat, and then do that 3 times in and out. So let's see how this goes. So on our mixing cup here, the primer, this is a 4:1 ratio chart. So the primer will go to this first one, and then being it's 4:1, the activator goes to this line here, and we mix. This is quite a bit, but we might need more. We'll see. Even though it's just primer, I still like to strain it, filter it out, get all the gunk out of it. Alrighty, we're ready. Let's yank her out and spray primer. So 3 nice thick coats later, we're done with primer. Now there's one part that I'm not a big fan of that we're gonna have to definitely fix. Well, I guess 2 parts. But of course we do need to let this primer shrink up for a couple days. I'm gonna keep the shop nice and warm, probably around 80, 90 degrees for the next couple days, just to make sure this gets as much time and heat as possible, so we do not have shrinkage issues in the future. What shrinking is when you go ahead and sand it too early, and then you paint the car, and then a couple days later, maybe a week later, whatever, you start seeing sand scratches underneath. It's fixable, but it's annoying. Ow. So the first thing I don't really like at all is this upper line. The rest of the quarter panel looks really, really nice. But now that we have primer on this thing, that line is just, it ain't perfect. And I'm not so sure, if I'm being completely honest, on how to fix it and make it perfect. It's like it gets too deep in the back. And I don't know if it's exactly straight either. I might have to have Val come help me out with that. Everything else with the quarter looks beautiful. Everything with the door looks beautiful. So issue 1 is that line right there, and then issue 2 was this bumper. So I need to figure out how to get like those little, when you sand plastic with the rough grit like we did, there's little like fibers or hairs sticking up, and I need to figure out how to get those knocked down, and I'm gonna have to put some more primer on this bumper for sure, because it does not look good. The filler work looks good, but the little bumps from the fiber stuff, I guess you could call it, from the plastic fibers, does not look good. But everything else that we primed turned out nice. All the other small body damage, everywhere that there's primer, we either did some metal work there or filler work. So this thing is turning out, but we're gonna have to let it sit for a couple days, which is fine because that gives us the opportunity to work on other things. So while we wait for the primer to dry over the next few days, we have some other shenanigans to take care of. Of course, right after I got done primering all of the car, our new OEM hood showed up. Well, this isn't new. My guy John from JD Customs had this laying around, and I really wanted to run a OEM hood on this car. The one that was on here was carbon, not in the best shape, and I want this thing mint. So let's go ahead and open this guy up and see what kind of condition she happens to be in. On some cars, I am a fan of like aftermarket carbon fiber hoods and trunks and whatnot, but it all depends on the build. For something like what we're doing on this car here, I truly think every OEM panel is gonna be the move. Not only do they fit better, I'm just trying to do an OEM build. And this thing is very OEM. It has the OEM heat shield on it. This OEM guy here, it is a little bit torn, so I might replace it, but overall, she looks mint. Oh yeah, this thing is beautiful. Thankfully, it's not really gonna need any sort of body work. There's a few little rock chips here and there that I'll fill. Other than that, I love it. Thanks, John. So being that we have a few days of downtime with the car as this primer shrinks up, I want to start working on getting some of the other assemblies finished up. Things like the engine, the transmission, the transfer case. Our hardware that's at zinc plating should be done hopefully within the next day or so. In the meantime, I'm trying to project in the future and see what the holdups are going to be. And really the only thing that has to go to a shop is the cylinder head. So down here, I got the head. I'm going to go ahead. Got the head, and I'm going to go ahead and fully disassemble this thing down to just a bare cylinder head. We are going to be doing a nice Cerakote process on here as well. As you can see, it's absolutely filthy. But this thing needs to fully come apart and be stripped down to absolutely nothing. All of the plugs need to be pulled out of it, and we're going to get it decked as well, or as you could say, resurfaced. So let's see what we got going on here. The first thing I'm going to do is go and mark all of the valves just so they can go back in the same position. When they go back in, I will lap them, but I just like for them to be in the same position that they came out of, or the same hole. 1 through 8 on the intake, 6, 7, and 8. 1 through 8 on the exhaust. Ooh, this thing is nasty. I forgot how disgusting this oil was. Cam caps, they're already all numbered and arrowed exactly how they go on the head. Now, of course, when they go back on, they do need to be put back in the same exact position that they were removed. But like I said, they're all numbered. I1, I2, I3, I4, I5, I6. Over here, we got 3 bolts holding on the HLA. That guy comes off. All these plugs I'm gonna pull out. They come out easier with heat. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. The reason I'm removing these plugs, just so we can get all the oil gullies and everything cleaned up. This thing will be glass beaded, so we gotta get every little thing out of it. Good old trumpet. So the only valve spring compressor tool that I have here is this little guy. I used it on the K24 build. I'm not so sure if it's gonna work on this 4G head or not. I might have to pick something else up. I don't think that guy's gonna work. And what time is it? 8:12. Nobody's gonna be open at this hour. What else could I finagle? A socket maybe? Are you in a hurry? Can you help me for like 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. All right. I found a good old Jimmy way. Jared and I are gonna go ahead and pop these guys out. I need you to grab these keepers with the magnet. It should go pretty quick. I just don't have the right tools, so I'm being a Jimmy. So you shouldn't get oily, but I will.
So what am I grabbing?
So I push this down.
Yeah.
And those keepers right there.
Shoot. Is there two?
Yeah, there's one on each side. I'm not sure how.
You might have to switch me.
Oh, dude, look at that stem seal.
Oh.
Sick.
Cool.
Sick. Thank you. So if you guys remember back when we pulled the pan on this thing, there was some of those little springs in the oil pan. Those were indeed from the valve stem seals, because quite a few of them are popped off the seal. So I'm glad we're rebuilding it. Let's go ahead and get it cleaned up with my favorite, Super Clean Degreaser. Now this is one of those things where we could just drop it off at the head shop and they could do their very minor basic cleaning on it and it'd be fine, but it wouldn't really look all that good compared to the rest of the car, or the rest of the build. So I want to do the cleaning and coating here and whatnot. It's pretty crazy what can happen when you turn your hobby into your full-time thing. I'm sure you guys are probably well aware of this, but YouTube nowadays and building these cars is, of course, my full-time thing. That's what I do nearly all day, every single day. And if I can think back to when I first started it, when I was building like the initial Black Evo 8 in my dad's garage, and those cars way back then, wide bodying the FRS, I enjoyed it so much, and it was so freaking cool to see like the progress of everything, progress of myself in learning all these new skills and crafts and whatnot on cars. And then of course, as time goes on, I realized for myself that I could literally make this my full-time thing. So I quit my day job, which at the time I was doing random oddball things, and made this my day job. And I've always strived since then for like constant growth, constant improvement, which I'm not saying is a bad thing whatsoever, but it can become so stressful at times to where you kind of stop enjoying it. You know, there's been multiple periods where I really don't like it, if I'm being frank. But I can honestly say these last like couple weeks have been so freaking fun. Just hanging out in the shop, jamming out, doing oddball things like restoring a cylinder head, and not having like crazy expectations on myself of what needs to get done that day. Some days I don't get much done. Some days I get a ton done. I'm always getting something done, that's for sure. But I used to have wild expectations and like force myself to finish whatever project I start that day. It has to be done that day. And I kept finding myself extremely stressed out, spending a ton of money overnighting parts, things like that. But man, it's amazing what happens when you can lift the expectation off I still have expectations. I still need to get a good amount done. But for example, I don't have to get the cylinder head done today. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, I can't, because what am I waiting on? I need the deck surfaced. I need stem seals. I need some springs and retainers. I need all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess I just want to say I've really been enjoying the content these days. I hope you guys have been too. I know the videos have been pretty freaking long, but it's been a blast filming them, and I feel like for the most part, it's been overwhelmingly positive, which is sick. A lot of people say don't make your passion your career. That's true. I think that could be very true if you go about it the way I used to go about it. If you just keep it very, how do you word this properly? If you keep it your passion as well and make it your career instead of just making it a full-time job, then it can still be extremely fun. And I am obviously very blessed to be in this position and be able to show these car builds with you guys here. And obviously I don't ever want to stop. So I'm glad I finally found this route of doing the builds that I thoroughly enjoy. Well, I think that's about as clean as it's gonna get. I've degreased and pressure washed it 4 times now. So I'm gonna go ahead, toss her in the oven, get all the water off of this thing, toss her in the bead blaster, and make it perfectly nice and shiny with the help of some glass bead. The OG oven, I'm so glad I still have this thing. I've had this oven for probably like 7 years. She's still kicking. They don't make them like they used to. Well, I feel like this is definitely a first. I don't believe I've ever sandblasted a cylinder head. Of course, I'm gonna be very cautious. I wanna be very aware of where I'm blasting to not directly blast like the valve seats, stuff like that. Even if I spent a ton of time masking everything off, sand would still get in places where it doesn't belong, so it's not a big deal. We can clean it out. Definitely clean it out. Hello, Bobby.
What's up?
If I'm home around 10, is that going to be a big problem?
Well, the thing is your steaks are already on the grill.
I know. I really want to get my cylinder head coated. I can come home now, but I would prefer to get it coated.
Honey, you can do whatever you want.
Wow, you're a gem.
Yeah, but your steak will be cold.
What? No way. All right, I'll be home at 10.
Okay, sounds good, honey.
See you in a couple.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye. Now, of course, this thing is going to need some very vigorous cleaning, which I'll probably have the cylinder head shop do because they do it on a daily basis. And you cannot have any sort of gunk inside these things or you'll ruin your entire engine. Just like the last few aluminum restoration projects, the Cerakote of choice is MC160 high gloss ceramic clear. So what we do is we put a very nice finish on it with the glass bead in the sandblast cabinet, and then we go ahead and apply this on the part, in this case the cylinder head, to make it stay nice and beautiful for life. This does look quite shiny when it first goes on, but after it cures, which a full cure cycle on this air cure Cerakote is 5 days. There is oven cure, so if we were in a massive rush, we would spray it, put it in the oven, bake it out, pull it out, and we'd be done. This here is the gun we're using, a very nice unit with a 0.8 millimeter tip. You want a pretty fine tip on her, pretty small tip to really control where the coating goes. Now you don't need much. A little bit of Cerakote goes a very long way. All right, she's all blown off. Wiped it down with wax and grease remover, and she is ready to spray. Don't mind my kind of janky masking method. Just had a crusty valve cover up on there because it's gonna get recoated anyway. Make sure you wear a mask when you're doing this. Cylinder head is all complete. I cannot get over how beautiful this thing looks. The shine is gonna die down just a little bit, which will give it more of the OEM plus appearance. But even if it stayed as is, I'm stoked. And the coolest part about the cylinder head fiasco, it wasn't a fiasco, it went very, very smoothly from getting it on the workbench to completely torn apart, cleaned, Cerakoted, and sandblasted as well, of course. 2 hours to the dot. The cool thing, and the reason why I think that's cool is because back in the day that would have easily been a full day project for me. It really is fun getting better at things, which of course allows me to knock these projects out a little bit quicker. I have had the urge recently to spend maybe a day or two on the Type R that we built, the all-wheel drive Type R, and I think it'd be a perfect opportunity while this primer is curing and shrinking up and whatnot to get that thing on the lift, maybe throw that T-case in there, figure out what's going on with the random anti-lag at 4,200 RPM, and maybe diagnose that battery drainage issue. Other than that, that thing's good to go. I have around 1,000 miles on it total, and being that we're not getting snow apparently this year, I could be driving right now, for Pete's sake. Good day in the shop. Stoked we finally got the Evo and primer, and I don't know, my mind's just racing right now with thoughts and ideas. I feel like it's going so fast I can't even think or speak. So I'm gonna wrap it up right here. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace.